We use a lot of clamps in our shop, and we've got a French cleat wall, so we built this really cool clamp rack to go on our French cleat wall to hold all of our clamps. Because you can never have too many clamps. People watch our videos and they say, wow, you sure do have a lot of clamps. And it's true, we do have a lot of clamps. We have 32 of these Irwin one-handed bar clamps of all different sizes. We've got 36 inch, 12 inch, 24 inch, even these little tiny ones, these 4-inch ones. We use them pretty heavily here in the shop because there's really just one of us out here, and these are a force multiplier. You can hold so many things together if you've got the clamps. Now, we didn't just go out and buy all these at once. We did it over a period of 4 or 5 years. We'd get a couple clamps here, one clamp there. I made sure they were on Christmas and birthday lists, so a lot of these were free, at least to me. So we've got these, and now we need a place to store them. Now, you've seen the clamp rack we had in other videos. We've used it for years, but it's a little fragile. It was sagging a little bit, and it was a little too large for our French cleat wall, so we decided we wanted to do something else. So we made a new one. Like I said, we've got this French cleat wall in the shop, and if you don't have French cleat walls in your shop, you need to put them up, and here's why. This is a lowly piece of 2x4 and a piece of scrap. Doesn't look like much, does it? But we can make a hanger out of it, and that hanger can hold a Navy flight deck helmet. Just like that. So we can make hangers to put whatever we want on the shop walls, and it costs us pennies. That's one of the reasons we save so many scraps, because we build stuff like this. So if you build a French cleat wall, you may also have a Navy flight deck helmet. But anyway, this is our old one. It did the job well. It can hold about 45 clamps, and we've decided we're probably not going to go that high. But over the years, it started to sag, and it comes out from the wall further than we want it to, and it's a little wide for what we want. We want to put more stuff on this wall, so we wanted something smaller, stronger, more compact. So we got rid of this one, and we built this one. Much more compact. It holds the same number of clamps that we have now, 32. We're going to increase that probably to 36, and it'll hold those. We don't need 40 to 45 like the other one had. It doesn't come out from the wall as far, which means there's not as much as shadow underneath it. It's easier to grab because these are a little higher than the other ones. So we think it's a better layout for our clamps. That's what we built for our clamps, our smaller one. And so we're going to show you how we built this.
The first step was to take some pine wood that was left over from a trim project we just finished and cut them into strips. The strips were then cut into varying widths to match the type of clamps that will be hung on them. This will all make sense in just a second.
So those strips of wood are these. This is what the clamps rest on when they're in the clamp rack. These are different sizes because each clamp has a different footprint, different size of its clamp edge. The 36 instruments have large ones, the little ones have much smaller ones, so we can vary the size of these and make a compact rack that'll fit on our wall.
Then the wood strips we had just cut are laid side by side with the clamps that will hang on them. This allowed us to figure out the exact measurements necessary for a minimum width clamp rack. With the placement of the shelves drawn right on the board, we knew how wide it needed to be, so the board is cut to the minimum width necessary to support all those shelves. This is about 3 inches more narrow than the previous rack, so it'll save us space on the French cleat wall. Pilot holes are drilled for the 2 screws that will go into the back of each one of the shelves. This will give the clamp rack strength and keep it from sagging, at least we hope it does. Then the French cleat is glued to the top of the backer board. This is a higher attachment point than what we used in the other clamp rack. It will be more stable than the 2 cleats we used on the previous one that didn't quite line up, and it will hold the clamps at a higher level than the other one did, so we can use more vertical space. The shelves were then sanded in preparation for mounting. The shelves are 9 inches long, and off camera I cut some 9-inch by 4.5-inch wedges. You've seen me cut wood before, so I didn't think you really cared if you saw me cut this. But these wedges will hold the shelves level even under load. I'm gluing them now to put them in place, and we'll add screws later.
And you see how these wedges work on the clamp rack. They hold up the shelves very nicely and they keep it from sagging, but they do not extend far enough down that you can't get your hand underneath to pull the clamp out. So pretty strong, just regular 3/4 inch pine, but they have plenty of strength to hold the clamps up top.
The completed wedges are then glued in place on top of the marks that we made earlier. Glue is plenty strong for most of this application, but we will be putting screws in the back later on to really stiffen up these shelves.
So now the rack is up and it's time to start hanging clamps. They just slide right in. And you may notice something. They're all crooked. That's because the Irwin clamps have a flat space here and the backside is a little higher, and so that's causing them to tilt. So if you build a rack like this for Irwin clamps or similar, you have to make little strips of wood that you put on your clamp rack that will straighten them out. And I've cut a bunch of these strips, so I'm going to take this down, I'm going to glue these strips on so that these will hang vertically. So now they're all glued in place. See how they're all different heights for the different clamps? They all measure to make them level. Watch this. Works just fine.
Remember how I said we would add screws later on? Well, it's later on now. The first step to adding the screws is to countersink the back of the shelf because this cleat is going to lay flush against the French cleat on the wall. Any screw on the back of this French cleat that isn't flush will not lay flat on the French cleat on the wall. That will cause the clamp rack to wobble, which will make it unstable, and it might dump all of our clamps in the floor. But as you can see here, two 2.5 inch screws in each shelf should be enough to keep each shelf straight. And now let's load all the clamps.
So that's our clamp rack. It holds 32 clamps right here where we can grab them whenever we need them and put them away. Very organized, very easy to use. It's stronger than our other clamp rack. Note that it's not sagging. And it's more compact so we can fit more stuff up here like our Navy flight deck helmets and things like the Dremel station that holds our Dremel and our drill station down here where we have all of our drills and all of their charging equipment and drill bits and so forth. All these things sit on this giant French cleat wall. If you like things like this, we have videos on each one of these. Yes, we even talk about the flight deck helmets in the video for hearing protection. So if you want to see that, go out to our playlist, our woodshop playlist, and there's videos for each of these and how we did it and why we did it and that sort of thing. It's a lot of fun to watch and see how we did this. A lot of people think that support stuff for a shop, like a simple clamp rack here or a hat hanger or things like that, are kind of pedestrian and aren't that interesting. But I can tell you from experience, when you organize yourself and you put things like this up, you move a lot faster in the shop. That's why we built this shop. We couldn't find any tools. We couldn't ever get anything done because the hammer was missing, or the drill was someplace else, or where's that clamp? So we brought it all in here and we started organizing it, and we realized that we had 8 hammers. We didn't know that. And we had boxes of screws that we had lost years ago that we didn't have to go buy new ones, so it saved us money. And we go so much faster here in the shop now that we can actually find things. It's fantastic. So put stuff like this up if you don't have it. It's worth your time, even though it's not something you would necessarily show off to other people. Now, some of you may be wondering what this hole in the wall down here is for. I'm super excited about this. An electrician is coming tomorrow to drop a new electrical outlet here for probably 15, maybe 20 amp, see what he tells me, so that we can have power on this wall. We've got the drill press here, but I've got an extension cord running along the ground to the drill press. That's probably not terribly safe, and it doesn't look that great. So if I have power here, I can put more tools here, which is why we need to get our tools up off the floor on these racks so we can put our tools down below and use them. Everything here is on wheels. We can move it around as we need it. So that's what the hole in the wall is for. Hopefully soon you'll see a receptacle there. Hey, thanks to our patrons on Patreon. You do great work. You support us. You help us buy things like this. Now, something you may not know about Patreon, after every one of these videos, we do a commentary on what went right, what went wrong, and our thoughts on the project. Sometimes they're as long as the video you're watching right now. So if you want to see that sort of thing, go out there and see what we offer on Patreon. Another thing we do for any level of Patreon is like even the $2 a month one, is that we give at the last day of every month a list of what we're building the following month. For example, the one for June 2020 is public. You can go out there and see that. You can hear about our animal leg stools and the iron end table and some of the other things we're working on. In fact, this is listed on that video. See, we did it. So if you want to see that sort of thing, join us. It's great. Our patrons give us a lot of good advice and support, and we love all of you. So thank you so much. If you like the rest of the things that we do, like and subscribe, ring that bell down there, and you'll always know when we do new stuff. There's always weird new stuff. Some of it's electronic. Once a month we do shop stuff, and sometimes just weird stuff. You know how we are. So if you don't watch the videos, and you'll learn. We're different. But clamp rack, good thing. Build one. See you next time.